Hi, and welcome to show number 10, Essential Summary. I thought it'd be a good idea at this stage to run through all that we've covered so far with the idea of bringing the totus unus principle together into a step-by-step process. Let's start off by going right back to show number 1, where we covered the concept of all the worlds a stage. The basic principle of this is that we can, through imagination, design our own life outcomes. We can also influence the other players on the stage, providing we do not break the law of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We also covered the concept of one single source of power, and that power correctly applied will bring forth what most term as objective reality into their lives. We then looked at the one major hiccup with the belief in this, which was caused by people having a problem relating to the fact that they are responsible for all that is manifested in their lives. Basically, this problem arises because we do not remember the many things that we imagine throughout the day, i.e. we are not consciously aware for the greater part of our lives what we're actually giving life to through our imagination. In show number 2, we looked directly at the starting point, that being imagination, and how if we're not aware of what we're imagining, this can give rise to the false notion that our lives are random. To a degree, of course, this has to be true. If we're unconsciously giving life to our random imaginations, we do indeed have a random experience of life. Within show 2 was also a personal story of the trike. Contained within this story was the whole essence of the totus unus principle. In show number 3 we looked at how content relates to what we get. Content is king was actually the title of this show. We looked how others and ourselves are always playing out parts. We also came back to the story of the trike and how some just dismiss it as chance. As a side note here, I recently received a mail from a totus unus subscriber who explained that when he was 18 years old, his mother's friend taught him about creative visualization. He went on to explain that since then he has never experienced a coincidence happening in his life. A fortunate man indeed to have met the lady at such a young age, and furthermore that he took it on board as meaningful. We also looked at what is the cruelest myth of all time, which is something that so many people believe to be true. That myth is called luck. And then at the end of that show, I brought together imagination and solidity to explain that they must be one together to give us objectified reality. In show number 4, we covered in more detail content and how to bring life to imagination by the simple and yet powerful process of using different words. We also moved towards understanding states and how these would define different levels of success. Also in show 4, we covered in some detail the way in which successful traders maintain the success they do, and how the majority of traders just exist for years without making headway. The main focus on this was the difference in how the successful trader views trading and is successful as a result of the state he or she occupies. Moving on to show number 5, we started off by looking at the word imagination and how this has been abused somewhat, which can give rise to some who are watching these shows to not have the correct definition. What then defined as our purpose? Remember? The faculty of placing oneself or others into different states which are not actually present to the senses at this time or space. We then went on to look at Mr. Inspired Trader and explained his logic of success, which basically came down to the simple formula that Mr. Expired is successful because his logic says he is that which he already is. Mr. Inspired exists within his state. He manifests success as this is what his state is. He has no choice but to manifest the state he is in. Change the state and you automatically change the manifestation. We finished this show up by getting you to decide on a test project to get the process underway. Show number 6, titled Relief at Last, was a big topic which matches its importance for you. Hopefully you will not only recall the story of the late child, but more importantly you will have grasped the feeling of relief which you then attach to the thing or situation that you want to bring in your life. It is required that you actually feel the relief of having attained that which you desire before it is manifested into solidified reality. I also mentioned the biblical story of the widow's mite. This was used not in a religious sense, but to explain what was required in terms of belief. The story gives us the concept of total and complete commitment. It is this same level of commitment that you need to develop in the fact that your desired wish has already come to pass. In show number 7, we move to Dream, Solidified. Again, in this show, we brought together the feelings of relief and attached it to the thing that you desire. We had the story of the pebble on the beach and how this was made so real as to provide an instant vacation when the pebble was held. Incidentally, after that show went out, the person in question mailed me to say that as he watched the show, he took hold of the pebble and was instantly transported to the day in Spain. Not bad for a several years old 5-minute project. Also in number 7, we looked at how one person reversed the principle to do something he would never normally do. Show number 8, entitled The Shock of Time Travel, dealt with the important topic of time and how we are, without the use of mechanical instruments, would have a perspective of time that would be relevant to the state we were in. This, of course, will be different from person to person. Generally, there are no windows or clocks in casinos for very good reason. Instruction was then given for the use of time travel to select memories. You were guided as to how to step into them, how to give them all the tones of reality. I then went on to explain how this same technique was used to move forward to the desired state and then bring in the all-important shock factor. Show number 8 was wrapped up with the concept of once existing in a state, regardless of that state, every part of your world that you call reality will simply be a manifestation of that state. Change the state and you change the manifestation. From that time on, your life will never be the same again. Show number 9 brought in the concept of faith and how we could define inner faith and outer faith. We also covered thinking from a state with faith as opposed to thinking of a state. We defined faith beautifully by the line, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. We then covered the 2 most important words in that line, that being substance and evidence. And that brings us right up to the end of this show. So as always, take care of you and yours, and don't forget to live and love a little of your dream every day. Catch up with you soon on the very next show, titled How Long Will It Take?